3 years ago? Perhaps that was the fateful turning point that changed my life forever. 3 years ago, I was still an arrogant man living in the illusion of success and believing I could control everything. 3 years ago, I personally lost the most precious thing I ever had. Now sitting alone in this vast mansion looking back at what has passed, I still feel a nagging regret, a scar that will never heal. Sophia's old camera, once a symbol of her dreams, now lies silently on my desk, covered in a thin layer of dust. I often touch it as if touching a part of a painful and beautiful memory. Let me tell you the story of Sophia, and how the darkness swallowed our dreams. If you had asked me about my life 3 years ago, I would have proudly said it was a dream come true. I was an ambitious software engineer on my way to building my own tech empire in Silicon Valley. I am a Vietnamese-American born and raised in California with a mindset that blended tradition and modernity, always believing I could seize every opportunity. Even as a student at Stanford, I was captivated by stories of billion-dollar startups, young founders changing the world with a few lines of code and a crazy idea. I yearned to be one of them, to leave my own mark on tech history. And on that challenging journey, I found Sophia Anderson, the woman of my life. Sophia was a vibrant, passionate American girl with sparkling blue eyes that always hinted at creativity and a free artistic soul. She was a freelance photographer dreaming of traveling the world, capturing the beauty of life through her lens. We met at a small coffee shop in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury, where she was showcasing her first photos of colorful street life. I was drawn to her innocence, her romance, yet also her strength by the way she saw the world through an artistic lens. Our love blossomed from evenings spent discussing technology and art, dreams that seemed different but were bound by the same burning passion. We married in a cozy ceremony on a picturesque beach in Big Sur with only family and closest friends. I still vividly remember our promise under the brilliant sunset to conquer every challenge together, to live every moment to the fullest, and never to give up on each other's dreams. Back then, we would sit together, Sophia excitedly telling me about the round-the-world trips she wanted to take, from the bustling markets of Marrakesh, the narrow alleys of Venice, to the majestic mountains of Patagonia. She wanted to capture authentic images of life of people of diverse cultures. "I'll host a global photo exhibition, Alex. You'll build your app and I'll travel everywhere to take photos for your app." I still vividly remember her words, her blue eyes sparkling like stars in the San Francisco night sky, and her voice full of excitement. I laughed, hugged her, promising that we would conquer this world together. I envisioned a future where we both reached the pinnacle of our careers, I as a renowned tech CEO and she as a global photographer. Together we would build an empire, a family, a dream life. But life isn't that easy. Our early years of marriage in San Francisco were a colorful but challenging picture without any magic. I dedicated all my time, passion, and money to developing my tech startup. Working 18-hour days was common, and sleepless nights in front of the computer seemed never-ending. I lived like a sleepwalker with only the startup and lines of code in my head. I ate sparingly, slept little, and every conversation revolved around fundraising, programming, and market strategy. Sophia was the same. She relentlessly pursued her passion for photography. She spent hours wandering the streets of San Francisco, exploring colorful local markets, or even venturing into rarely visited slums, searching for authentic moments for stories told through images. She sold small prints at weekend art markets and regularly submitted her work to international photography competitions. I remember her excitedly showing off small articles written about her exhibitions at a local gallery or response emails from photo contests. The money she earned from photography wasn't much, but the passion in her eyes was boundless. However, reality was much harsher than our dreams. Money was always the biggest problem. My startup faced countless difficulties, from failed funding rounds to fierce competition. There were times when we were on the verge of bankruptcy with only a few $100s left in our bank account, just enough to barely survive for a few days. The pressure weighed heavily on me to the point where I just wanted to give up, quit, find a stable job, and forget this crazy startup dream. I clearly remember that fateful night. I returned home in despair. A potential investor had pulled out at the last minute, and I didn't know how to manage to pay office rent and salaries for the few remaining employees. I sat there, head in my hands, feeling like the whole world was turning its back on me. Sophia came to me without a word of reproach, just quietly brewing me a hot cup of tea. The warmth from the tea and her gentle touch on my shoulder somehow soothed my pain. Then she sat beside me, holding my hand tightly, her eyes looking at me with worry, but also great tenderness. In that moment, I still thought I was the happiest man in the world, unaware that I was standing at a critical turning point, a decision that would change everything, not just my life but hers as well. "Alex," she said, her voice soft but firm, I think I'm going to stop taking photos and entering competitions for a while. I'll find a stable job so we can have more income. You need a solid foundation to develop your startup." I was stunned. Her dream, her passion, was it because of me? I asked her, "But what about your dream, Sophia? You've spent so many years pursuing it, so much effort and dedication." And she smiled. A forced smile which only much later looking back did I realize was a sign of extreme sorrow, a great sacrifice. "Your dream is my dream too, Alex. We are one. You need someone at home to take care of everything so you can focus completely on your work. You just do what you do best and I'll take care of the rest. We'll work together for our shared future." I hugged her tightly, feeling a deep gratitude, a sense of immense luck to have such a wife. I promised her that when I succeeded, I would make it all up to her, I would help her fulfill her dreams. I believe that was the right thing to do, a necessary sacrifice for the bigger picture for both of us, a small trade-off for a glorious future. At that moment, I had no idea that it was a promise that I in my blindness would never keep. That was when the door to Sophia's life with its vibrant colors of art slowly closed, and she stepped into a monotonous world all for me. I thought it was consent, but in reality it was her resignation. A resignation I was too oblivious to notice, and so Sophia gave up her path as a freelance photographer, finding an ordinary office job, working 8 hours a day and still working extra shifts at a small retail store on weekends. She became the manager of everything in the house, from cooking and cleaning to managing finances and social relationships. She was a solid foundation, someone I could completely trust to focus on my career. Whenever I came home, she always had a meal ready no matter how late I arrived. She often placed my favorite photos on my desk as a reminder that we still had a life outside of work, a life I was fighting for. I still remember the smell of coffee she brewed every morning, the clatter of kitchen utensils every evening. I noticed she spent less time taking photos. Her cameras were brought out less often, but I told myself she was busy with work, with housework. I ignored those small signals, those signals that indicated a change was happening in her soul. Now looking back, I still shiver thinking about those years. 3 years ago, my startup finally took off. It was like a miracle. After a brilliantly successful Series B funding round, we received a huge investment from the most prestigious venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. Our product, a groundbreaking AI platform, made a big splash in the market, becoming a new trend and attracting millions of users in just a few months. I became a household name in the tech world, invited to speak at major conferences in Davos CES, appearing on the covers of Forbes and Bloomberg. Money was no longer an issue. I bought a luxurious villa in the expensive area of Silicon Valley with a stunning view of San Francisco Bay, a life I had only dreamed of now within my grasp. We had a private chef, a gardener, a housekeeper. Our lives became extravagant and complete, but something was missing. In that mansion, Sophia was always the perfect wife. She kept the house immaculate, managed the domestic staff, and cooked delicious meals whenever I came home. She always smiled, listened to stories about my work, about the successes I achieved, about million-dollar contracts. She hosted lavish parties with my friends and partners, and was always a thoughtful, skilled hostess praised by everyone. My mother, a traditional Vietnamese woman, was also very pleased with Sophia. She often praised her as a gentle, capable daughter-in-law. Everyone said we were a perfect couple, an ideal image of a successful American family. But gradually, I realized something was changing. At first, I didn't notice, or intentionally didn't want to notice. Sophia spoke less. Her smiles were no longer as radiant as before, but seemed forced to face, trying to maintain composure. I remember once I excitedly told her about the company having just signed a billion-dollar contract, and she just nodded slightly and said, "That's great, honey." There was no cheering, no excited sparkle in her eyes like in the old days. She often looked at me with distant eyes full of thoughts I couldn't read. She no longer talked about photography ideas or places she wanted to visit. Instead, she talked about the price of organic food for dinner, about hiring a new gardener, about trivial stories of our elite neighbors. Our evenings often passed in silence. I buried myself in video calls with partners in Asia or read financial reports. She would sit and write a book or watch some TV show that I never paid attention to. At that time, intoxicated by success, I only thought that Sophia was enjoying the peaceful, fulfilling life I had provided for her. I was proud of what I had accomplished, and I believed that was what she wanted. I tried to compensate with material things. I bought her the most expensive designer items, from Chanel, Louis Vuitton luxurious cars, lavish trips to Paris, Maldives, Santorini, the latest model cameras that I had heard she liked, though she hardly ever used them anymore. I thought that was how to show my love and gratitude. But Sophia was no longer interested in those things. She still accepted gifts, still traveled, but her eyes remained empty. Her smiles became increasingly faint. She no longer spontaneously hugged me or kissed me like she used to. Nights when I returned home late, I'd find her fast asleep, or sometimes she would still be awake, quietly sitting in the living room looking out the window, her gaze unfocused. I started to feel uneasy. I went out more, meeting friends, partners, people who always praised me, always made me feel important. I sought the vibrancy, the excitement that I felt was missing at home. I thought Sophia had changed, that she was no longer the passionate girl she once was. She only cares about trivial things, no longer shares grand ambitions with me. I told myself, and felt increasingly lonely in my own home, a self-inflicted loneliness. I remember once I saw her quietly scrolling through old photos on her phone, photos she had taken of street life, of homeless people in San Francisco. Her eyes held an endless nostalgia, a deep sadness that I couldn't explain at the time. I ignored it, pretended not to see it. I no longer asked her about her dreams, no longer shared small joys in life. Slowly, the invisible wall between us grew larger, and our love gradually withered in distance and silence. Can you believe it? The very night I returned home after the successful IPO party, the night I thought I was a hero, someone who could do anything, was the fateful night that tore open the veil of truth. I had drunk quite a bit, and in my drunkenness, I felt I deserved Sophia's adoration, her admiration. I walked into the study where Sophia was sitting and reading. This was the room I had equipped with the most expensive photography equipment for her, but it lay covered in dust and was never used. "Sophia," I said, my voice louder than usual, mixed with self-satisfaction and a hint of intoxication. "Aren't you going to congratulate me? The company had a successful IPO? This is the most important milestone in my career." She looked up. I still remember that look. There was no joy, no pride, just a slight smile and a terrifying calmness. "Congratulations, Alex. I know you've worked hard." Her indifference and calmness ignited the fire of anger within me. I poured all my frustrations, all the pressure I had endured, onto her with the harshest words. "Is that all? Do you know what I had to sacrifice to get here today? I worked tirelessly, gave up everything to bring this life to us. I fulfilled every promise I ever made to you. I gave you a life many only dream of." Sophia put the book down. In that moment, I thought I had won, but then she spoke. In a gentle voice, yet sharp as a blade, every word like a cut to my heart, not of anger but of pain that had accumulated for too long. "Sacrifice, Alex? Do you think you're the only one who sacrificed? Did you ever look at me? Look at the woman who was once so passionate. To this day, I am still haunted by those words. Did you ever think about what I sacrificed? I gave up my dream, gave up the path I loved most, just to stay home and worry about you so you could fly high. I left behind everything that was mine just to become Mrs. Alex, the wife of successful CEO Alex Tran. Did you ever ask if I was happy? Did you ever ask if I still remembered my old camera and those dusty trips, the authentic photos I wanted to take? Did you ever see the emptiness in my eyes when I saw other photographers exhibiting their work in big galleries, people from my own time shining? You promised to make it up to me, to help me fulfill my dreams, but you forgot. You were too busy with your own success, with parties and praises." Her words were like thousands of needles piercing my heart. I was stunned. I had never thought of that. I always thought I had done enough, had given her everything she needed. This naked truth shattered me. Tears streamed down Sophia's cheeks. Not weak tears, but tears that flowed silently, an expression of pain that had reached its limit of spiritual exhaustion. I don't need designer clothes, Alex. I don't need luxurious trips. I need to live as myself. I need you to see me, to appreciate what I gave up for you. But you didn't. You just saw me as an obvious part of your successful life, like an expensive piece of jewelry. I'm tired, Alex. I can't go on like this anymore." Sophia said, her voice choked, full of pain and resolve. "Now I feel like I'm no longer Sophia. I'm just a shadow and ornament in your life. I'm tired, Alex. I can't go on like this anymore." I looked at Sophia, seeing the exhaustion clearly on her face. The pain in her eyes was too great, too unbearable. I wanted to speak, to hold on, to apologize, but I didn't know what to say. I had been too busy with myself, with my ambitions, that I had neglected the woman who had walked with me through the most difficult days. I had let her sacrifice become a scar, not a source of pride. I had traded her for the success I had promised to share with her. The next day, Sophia quietly placed the divorce papers on the table. Her signature was clear, decisive, without a hint of hesitation. My heart stopped. Just like that, 3 years ago, our marriage ended. No arguments, no shouts, just a deadly silence. She demanded nothing but her freedom. Even this mansion she didn't want to share. She only took a few clothes, an old camera, and her unfinished dreams. The serenity in her eyes as she left hurt me even more, as if she had been freed from an invisible chain. After that day, I tried to hold on, begging Sophia to reconsider. I went to the small apartment she rented, called hundreds of times, sent hundreds of messages. I promised to change, to make it up to her. I said all the empty words a selfish man could say when on the verge of loss. I said I would quit my job, that I would travel the world with her, that I would help her fulfill her dreams. But Sophia just shook her head. It's too late, Alex. The wound is too deep. I no longer recognize myself in this life. I need to find myself again, find my dream again. Her voice was calm without anger, only weariness and resolve. I was desperate. I didn't want to lose Sophia. She was an indispensable part of my life, the foundation for all my successes. But instead of looking inward, I chose to run away from reality. I buried myself even deeper in work, in all-night parties with partners and investors. I started dating other women. Women who always admired and praised me, who didn't demand much more than compliments and the glamour of a successful CEO. They were beautiful, intelligent, and always ready to be by my side at parties. I thought that was my way of filling the void in my heart, to prove that I could still be happy without Sophia. I even told myself she had changed, that she was no longer the girl I loved, that she was no longer suited for the life of a successful person like me. I created a play and turned myself into the villain in my own show. But you know what? Every time I returned to the vast empty mansion, loneliness gnawed at me. The laughter at parties became meaningless. Fleeting relationships only brought more emptiness. Memories of Sophia, of the days we overcame difficulties together, flooded back. I remembered her eyes when she gave up her dream, remembered the meals she prepared for me, remembered how she silently supported me. I realized that the new women only brought me empty compliments, fleeting pleasures, not the understanding, genuine love and peace I once had with Sophia. I realized the emptiness inside me grew larger. During that time, I still secretly followed Sophia. I heard that she had started a new life. She enrolled in an advanced art photography course, worked hard, and spent time on herself. I heard from mutual friends that Sophia had regained her radiant smile, her eyes sparkling again when talking about new photography projects. She even held a small exhibition for her early works at an independent art gallery in San Francisco, attracting the attention of art lovers. I secretly went to see the exhibition. I stood from a distance, hidden in the crowd, trying not to be seen by her. I watched Sophia confidently present her works, receiving praise from experts. She shone brightly, a beauty I had once seen in her, but had inadvertently buried for too long under the weight of my ambition and indifference. I felt like a stranger standing before a masterpiece I myself had helped create but had no right to possess. I saw a strange man standing beside her, a calm-looking man whose eyes looked at Sophia with admiration and respect. A bitter, envious feeling surged within me. I thought Sophia had found someone else, that she had found happiness with a man who appreciated her more than I did. That made me even more miserable. I plunged into even more fleeting relationships, trying to prove that I could still be happy without her, that I could still find someone else. I thought I was punishing Sophia, but in reality, I was only punishing myself, trying to fill the void with superficial things and deceiving myself. Time passed like an arrow tearing through space that I couldn't grasp. 3 years after the divorce, my company achieved the brilliant successes I had once yearned for. I was a billionaire CEO, honored as one of the most powerful figures in Silicon Valley, but I felt emptier than ever. Material happiness couldn't fill the loneliness in my soul. I lived in a vast but cold mansion amidst superficial relationships. I still often returned to my study, gazing at Sophia's old camera. It had become a keepsake, a reminder of everything I had lost. Until one day, I received an invitation to a major art event at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, honoring talented young artists. Initially, I intended to decline, but then a name on the list of honored artists made me stop. Sophia Anderson. I couldn't believe my eyes. She had done it. She had fulfilled her dream far beyond what I could have imagined. I decided to go. I wanted to see her, to know how she had lived after leaving me. I stood silently before her, works my heart pounding. It was a special exhibition area with stunning landscape photos from all over the world, from colorful markets in Marrakesh, ancient alleys in Venice, snow-capped peaks in Patagonia, to emotional portraits of unknown people, stories of life that only Sophia could capture through her lens. Each photo contained a story and intense emotion. I realized this was the Sophia I once loved, a Sophia full of passion and artistic yearning, a beauty I had inadvertently buried under the weight of my ambition and my own indifference. I felt like a stranger standing before a masterpiece that I myself had helped create but had no right to own. When Sophia appeared on stage to introduce her collection, she looked radiant and confident in a simple yet elegant dress. Her eyes no longer held the emptiness or sadness I had once seen. She shone brightly, talking about her artistic journey, about the difficulties, about finding herself again, about the places she had traveled and the people she had met. I felt like a slap in the face, realizing how blind I had been. She had gone, explored, lived the life she had always dreamed of, while I was only preoccupied with numbers and meetings. After the speech, I saw her step down. A man approached her and embraced her. It was the same man I had seen at her small exhibition before. My heart tightened again. An agonizing pain. I had truly lost her. I had lost the most precious gem in my life, and now she was happy with someone else. I tried to gather all my courage to go see her. I needed to apologize, to congratulate her, and also wanted to ask about that man. I saw Sophia talking to a group of people. She turned and saw me, her eyes showing a hint of surprise but no anger or resentment. It was like looking at someone she once knew nothing more, someone from a distant past. "Alex," she said, her voice calm without any superfluous emotion, as if I were just an old friend, a distant memory. "You came too. Congratulations, Sophia." I said, my voice hoarse, full of regret. "You did it. Your collection is amazing. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't realize your worth, didn't appreciate what you sacrificed. I was so oblivious." Sophia smiled, the first genuine smile I had seen from her in many years. But that smile wasn't for me. It was a smile of peace and freedom. "It's okay, Alex. I'm fine now." And then the man I had seen embracing her earlier stepped closer. Sophia turned to him, and the smile on her lips suddenly became unusually gentle. Warm, a smile I had never received during the final years of our marriage. "Alex?" Sophia said, her eyes looking at me like an old friend. "This is Ethan. He helped me a lot in fulfilling this dream." She turned to Ethan and gave him a radiant smile. I was stunned. My heart seemed to stop. Who is he?" I asked, my voice trembling, a faint hope rising within me, hoping she didn't have anyone else, that I still had a chance. Ethan smiled, a warm and friendly smile. He extended his hand to shake mine. "Hi, Alex. Nice to meet you. I'm Ethan, Sophia's brother." The final twist hit me like a lightning bolt. The entire scenario I had concocted in my head about Sophia's new love, about her finding happiness with another man, suddenly crumbled. I had been so preoccupied with jealousy, with the fear of loss, that I hadn't seen the obvious truth. That close relationship wasn't romantic love, but familial affection, unconditional support from her family, something I hadn't been able to give her. I had deceived myself for 3 years, believing in an illusion just to justify my own shortcomings. Sophia looked at me, her eyes full of understanding but devoid of any lingering affection. There was no resentment, only the serenity of someone who had let go of the past. "It's okay, Alex. Now I just want to live my own life, live fully with passion. I found myself again, and I hope you do too." Sophia's words were like a final period to all the vain hopes I had clung to. Although the twist about Ethan surprised me, the calmness and resolve in Sophia's voice were the real fatal blow. I stood frozen, watching her figure disappear into the crowd beside Ethan, the brother I had never known. Yes, throughout our years of marriage, I had been so engrossed in my own world that I forgot Sophia also had a family, her own interests. I left the exhibition, walking into the San Francisco night under the glittering city lights, but my heart was plunged into darkness. That night I couldn't sleep. Sophia's words echoed in my head like a never-ending guilty verdict. I recalled all the moments we had together, from the difficult early days to the wealthy but cold years. I realized that my resounding successes suddenly became meaningless, like a sandcastle I had lost everything to build but had no one to share it with. I had everything yet lost the most important thing, Sophia. The woman who gave up her dream for me and ultimately had to leave to find herself again. This lesson came too late, and the price was too high. 3 years passed, that regret still gnaws at me every day. I personally destroyed the most precious thing I ever had. This divorce wasn't because she found someone new, but because I was no longer worthy of her love and sacrifice. I had been too complacent, too careless, too blind, and in doing so lost my own happiness. The large mansion was now just a shell, a prison of loneliness. But you know what? Even though 3 years have passed since that day, I haven't given up. Every day I take time to reflect on my mistakes, to learn to appreciate the values I once overlooked. I no longer live in that big mansion. I've moved to a smaller apartment in San Francisco, near the area Sophia used to frequent. I've started to learn how to listen, how to care about the small things in life. I no longer work late nights, no longer have endless meetings. I've delegated more work to my management team, spending time to reflect on myself. I've started taking art and photography courses, not to try to become an artist, but to understand more about the world Sophia is passionate about, to be able to talk to her in a common language. I read the books she used to love, listened to the songs we used to listen to together. I even visited the neighborhoods where Sophia used to take photos, trying to see the world through her lens. I also started genuinely participating in charity work. I support organizations that help the homeless, struggling young artists, causes I had never bothered with before. I want to use my actions to prove my change, not just empty promises. I still frequently attend Sophia's exhibitions, watching her from a distance. Sometimes I send her white roses without a card, just a silent bouquet. I know she notices, but she doesn't react. I don't expect her to come back immediately. I know I caused too deep a wound, but I believe in a second chance and redemption. I believe my love for her is real, and I will prove it through my actions, through my patience, through my own change. I still vividly remember her calm smile when she introduced Ethan as her brother. That smile held no love for me, but also no resentment. It was a faint ray of hope, a small door still ajar. I will continue to wait, continue to strive until she is ready to see me again. Not as the mistaken ex-husband, but as a changed man, a man worthy of her love and sacrifice. I know this path will be long, but I will not give up. Because Sophia, she is all I truly want in this life. Alex and Sophia's story, even 3 years later, remains a poignant reminder of the cost of silent sacrifice and the importance of cherishing the invisible contributions in a relationship. Sometimes in the race to conquer success, we inadvertently overlook those who silently stood behind us, lifting us up. And when they leave, the void they leave behind is irreparable, because we have lost an important part of ourselves. Alex has realized his mistakes, but will his regret and efforts to change be enough for Sophia to give him a second chance? Can love truly heal all wounds, even the deepest scars on the soul? What do you think of this open ending? Do you believe in a second chance for Alex and Sophia? Would you do the same if you were in Sophia's or Alex's shoes? Leave your comments below and share your thoughts on this story. Hit the like button if this story touched your heart, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next emotional stories, surprising twists, and profound life lessons. Thank you for listening. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.